And look at the cats.
Hey, folks. How's everybody doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. We're just going to ask you guys all to mute yourselves just so that we avoid some of the background interference and things. Thank you for that.
Are you Emily?
I'm going to give it one more sec for people to join, and then we'll kick things off.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. It's not gonna be okay. So like it's been really, really hot today.
And so I'm just going to ask you
Yesterday.
folks to mute yourselves again if you haven't already.
Why you admire her so much? Was it a big deal? It is to us.
All right, so we will kick things off, and I will let people come in as they continue to enroll. So thank you for coming out. I know this is no real ideal time, and 2 o'clock probably isn't very conducive for many of us, but it's just we found that this is the best opportunity to bring all of you together. You always have similar questions, so we're going to address all those. And obviously, the biggest one is, what the heck is this all about? How did I get a text message from you? Is this real? What is this whole program? So I'm going to walk you through all of that. But for starters, I wanted to introduce myself. I am not Brigham Joy. He's the guy that owns America's Team. I am Tom Hyam. I work for ACIS Educational Travel. So ACIS is an organization that has been operating programs for 45 years plus now. We specialize in taking students and teachers overseas on international immersive programs for cultural awareness. So think, many of you probably already have these offered at your schools. Think your history teacher doing a trip to D-Day, or your French teacher doing a French immersion. So we have then partnered with Brigham over at America's Team to introduce this with a sports component to it. So we've sort of got the best of both worlds. We get to introduce you folks to a new culture, new language, a new everything, but we get to use sport as the vehicle. So we believe that travel changes lives, and we are all testament to that. I have been working here for 17 years, and I started as a mortgage broker, and then it was a backpacking trip to Costa Rica that really inspired me to go and see the world and do something different. I did not have the privilege of playing sport overseas, but Brigham did. He was a baseball player in Washburn out of Kansas, and when he got to play in Central Europe, and it was the best week of his life, and he came back and said, I need to introduce other kids to this experience and let them have their minds blown by international travel. So that's sort of what he approached us about 12 years ago and said, I've got this dream, I want to make it happen, I need somebody to handle the travel piece. So together we are America's Team Programs. And we work with a network of college coaches from around the country at the D3, D2, NAIA level, who give us the names of everybody on their recruitment radar at the beginning of every recruitment season, which is obviously right now. We are building teams for next year, 2023. So we reach out to all of those coaches and say, all right, it's go time. Give us the names of all the girls. We are going to recruit them directly. And then that's where you got your text from. So these coaches are somebody that either they or their coaching staff or their scouting or recruitment team has seen your daughter compete at a local tournament, a clinic, a showcase, something like that, or their name was given through their reference network of AAU coaches, high school coaches, scouts, and so on and so forth. So they give us a list, we compile it, and then we reach out directly and invite the girls to play. And we essentially just split them based on 3 different destinations. We offer similar experiences with different price points and different dates throughout the summer to the Dominican Republic, Barcelona, and Australia. So all of you folks would have been invited for one of the 3. We also do 3 sports. We do women's basketball, women's volleyball, and softball. So we just kicked off our softball campaign. Some of you may be softball, but I'm guessing most of you are volleyball players. But either way, the concept and the process is always going to be the same. So it's a hybrid of a competitive sports program and followed by the cultural piece. So we always have a tournament in the beginning where we go on, we play, we crown a champion, and then we go explore the country, so you get to learn about what it is and why people should go there and what it's all about. For our sports, for girls basketball and girls volleyball, we have a maximum of 10 girls per squad and a minimum of 6 games per team. We want you guys playing a lot. We're not going to suit up 25 kids on a roster and have any 5 on the court for basketball at any time. Doesn't do you any good, doesn't do us any good. So it's a maximum of 10 with a minimum of 6 games. Depending on how well you compete and perform, that will dictate how many games you ultimately get. But it's going to be a minimum that we guarantee. And the girls that we're recruiting are all really solid players that are committed to their craft. These are not rec players that maybe throw on a jersey once or twice a week and play a game on a Saturday. I see that some of you are in your cars. You're probably outside of a gym waiting for your daughter to finish up or on your way to a tournament or something like that. That is the type of kids. You folks are competing probably 363 days a year. So that is the type of kid that we're looking for. Most of you are going to play college ball. It might be D3, might be D2. Some of you play small D1. The type of kid that we're recruiting is typically not the highest of echelons where they're going to the Stanfords and the UConns to play hoops or the UCLAs to play softball, things like that, or UCLA to play volleyball. Those girls are already being recruited by D1 schools. So some of you might end up on that trajectory or might end up in that realm. Most of you are going to be on the level of the D2, D3, depending on where you live and what sort of programs you're looking for. So our coaches that we find are also on that level. Some of them are NAIA, where they springboard kids to the D1 level, but that is sort of where they're looking to be. They have very small recruitment budgets, but they're expected to field and staff their teams properly to compete at a high level every year. So this is a hybrid model of they get the opportunity to see you folks compete and to get to know you really, really well and really closely by spending an entire week with you abroad. And you get the opportunity of competing under a college level coach, not only the coach that's on your team and his or her assistant, those will be your staff members, but also all the other coaches that are there through America's team at the same time representing at this tournament. So basically what we do, we build the teams, and then down the line in the spring, after full payment deadline, when people have recommitted, we know that they've paid, hopefully by that, they haven't suffered any injuries. We look at it and see, we know the positions that you played and we know where you come from. So our goal then, or our project then, is to look at everybody and break you off based on your positions and where you come from. So it's not going to do us, I'm going to continue to use the basketball analogy just because I didn't play volleyball as a kid, but I did play basketball as a young student athlete. So I'm going to continue with the sort of basketball analogy. Forgive me, I know it doesn't apply to all, but you kind of get the point. It's not going to do us any good to have 10 point guards, but nobody that can play on the block. So when we know where all the girls are coming from and that they've recommitted, we'll look and assign you folks based on your skill set and where you compete, and then assign you to coaches. We will also look at where you're coming from because that lends itself to potentially knowing these other girls or being closer to them geographically here in the United States. So have you seen your invitation you might live in New Jersey, but your invitation is from a coach from Phoenix or Texas or something like that. So you may ultimately compete with that coach, but you may not as well. We might see, oh, great, there's a whole bunch of representation from the Mid-Atlantic or the tri-state area, and move you to those girls so that maybe you cross paths with them in your AAU circuits or your select camps or whatever it is, your showcases. But whatever it is, we will introduce you to your squad and your coaches around the spring via Zoom and remotely so that you can get to know the girls that you're going to be competing with and sharing this experience with, and you'll get to know your coaches too. He or she will send you a small playbook so you can kind of get used to it. And then you'll show up and you'll just ball out when you get overseas and compete with your team. We will fly you from your gateway. Wherever you live, we will fly you from. You don't have to be expected to go and meet your coach if you ultimately play with somebody that doesn't live anywhere near you. We will take care of all of that for you. You just need to register from the closest gateway to you, and we'll take care of all the bookings. If you are with another girl or parent or family member or something, we will obviously book everybody from the same gateway on the same flight. Otherwise, you may have to fly alone to a central hub where then you'll all meet up and fly overseas together. So for the DR, we likely meet in Dallas, Miami, or Atlanta because we use major carriers, American, United, and Delta. So wherever their hub is, we would meet you up there. For Spain, it could be Chicago, New York, Philly, so on and so forth. And then for the Australian programs, everybody's going to meet in Dallas, San Francisco, or Los Angeles because they have the nonstops over to Sydney. Again, you don't need to worry about any of that. You just tell us where you live and you sign yourself up from there, and then we'll take care of it. So you will be flying with your teammates overseas. Once you arrive overseas, you'll be met by an ACIS tour manager. So this is in addition to your coaching staff. These people have don't necessarily know anything about the sport, but they are your eyes and ears in country. They know everything about the destination that you're traveling to, both culturally, historically, the culinary piece, the whole nine. They are going to bring context to what you're doing in after you've finished the competition. So your coaches will be responsible for the athletic piece. Your tour managers will be with you for the duration after that. And then once you arrive, we cover the whole thing. We do your hotels, we do your transfers, we do your entry fees, your uniforms, your meals, the whole thing. All you got to do is get a passport, show up when we tell you to, and we'll take care of the rest. And this is an opportunity for you to go and play against other girls from around the world that are doing what you're doing at a high level, just like you are. So many of you, as I've mentioned many times, we know that you're playing AAU ball and that you're playing a lot. If you ask around at any of those tournaments, how many of you have ever taken your skills overseas? I bet there's very few. So this is an opportunity for you to differentiate yourselves and to get the opportunity to step out of your comfort zone into a foreign land and play against kids that are playing just as highly as you. In the programs that we just finished, we had in basketball to Barcelona, they got to play not only against the Spanish junior national team, but the Scottish junior national team too. So it is truly an international event. In Australia, we placed fourth in our recent softball tournament against the New Zealand junior national team, and the Australian junior national team took home the gold. So we're playing at a very high level, and you folks play at a high level too. So it's cool to go and realize that I might not speak your language, quite literally, but we both speak the passion of the game. And that's what this is all about. Introducing you to a worldwide sport and a global sport and showing where you fit in the process. And not only through the sports piece, but also just where you fit in general. A lot of what you're doing right now is figuring out who you are and what your goals are, what your future holds. And this is an opportunity for you to get outside of your comfort zone and look at a bigger picture. And that's really what this trip is all about. So I wanted to talk about a couple of the big FAQs right now and the things that people always ask. I covered how did you get my name? That's clearly the biggest one. The second one is, all right, so what are the practice expectations in tryouts? I've kind of touched upon this a little bit, but we do not actually have the girls try out, and you do not have to practice beforehand. That is because we know that you've been recommended to us from coaches. We know that you're of the caliber of kid that we're looking for. So it's already an added expense to go in this program in addition to everything else that you have. Your families are probably stretched thin, both for time and for finances. So we know that when you get overseas, it's going to be a seamless transition where you can just get on the field, get on the court, and play ball. We'll give you a little bit of a workout so you can iron out the kinks and shake out some cobwebs, get to know each other on the floor. But we've found that kids can just play. And that's who you are. You guys might be a select team where you've never met those girls either. The first time you compete, you might dominate. So that's sort of the expectation. And we don't want you to have to fly, if your group is comprised of people from all around the country, to have to fly to somewhere in the Midwest to go and try out for the team or to compete. So we do not require that. The next big thing, obviously, is safety. Okay, so who are you guys? Why should I trust you to take my most prized possession overseas? We get it. That is not a responsibility that we take lightly. So as I mentioned in the beginning, ACIS has been operating tours for 45 years. We've seen everything you can imagine and then some. Your kids are in good hands with us. We have offices worldwide. I am out of my home in Boston due to the pandemic. Our corporate headquarters is here. Brigham's out of Kansas City. We have coaches from all around the country, but internationally we have offices in London, Paris, Rome, Madrid, folks in Barcelona, down in Dominican Republic, over in Sydney, in Beijing. So literally around the world, wherever you are, we are. We have a 24/7 emergency network. So something goes wrong, you call us. We realize that your kid might be across the international date line and what day is it over in Australia? Don't worry about it. Call us, let us know what's happening. We have tour managers that are with you, as well as local guides that are licensed to travel through the destinations that you're going to. So we have the infrastructure in place. We also have a partnership with a risk assessment company that sort of dictates what's going on in the world, both with COVID and otherwise. So we always have our fingers on the pulse and our ears to the grindstone. We know what's going on. We are going to take your kids safely and return them, more importantly, safely as well. So that's a big question that people always ask, but we've got your back on that. So another big one is, wow, this sounds really cool. Can parents come too? Of course, absolutely. So clearly your daughters are the priority here. Without kids to compete, there's nobody to watch overseas. But many of you are going to travel. I'd say on any given year, on any given group, there's probably 40% of our kids that travel solo, and then 60% that travel accompanied by somebody, an older sibling, a parent, multiple parents, the whole extended family. So everybody's welcome. I mentioned that there's a max of 10 girls per team, but the buses are much larger, so they can accommodate a much larger group size. So we're not stuck by a sprinter van or something like that. The vehicle will be able to accommodate everybody regardless of group size. So there's always space. If you do sign up, you don't need to sign up yourselves right now. Your daughters, you can sign them up first. You can sign up the parents at a later date. That's okay. If you look at it and say, I'm 100% going, sure, sign up both at the same time. That's okay as well. In terms of signing up, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but in the event that you do, you would just follow the links that we provided with you, and then just enter all your personal information. You would unfortunately have to replicate that process for everybody that's traveling. So if mom and dad are going, we need 3 different registrations, 1 for each person. But you'd follow the same link, everyone would be a participant. So that's how that would go. But again, your daughters, register them first. That's what we're looking to do. Another big thing for this is fundraising, right? So I've mentioned this a couple times now too. We know that this is a stretch in addition to all the things that are going on in your lives as is. So we provide a fundraising page for all individuals. When you sign up, you'll be given a link that's tied directly to your ACIS account. Think of it as a GoFundMe page, but 100% of the money raised goes directly to you. There's nothing off the top. There's no percentage that's withheld from your donations. We find that parents and families and communities love to rally around you guys. They see that you're making moves. They're seeing that you're doing solid things for your community and for yourselves, and that you're looking at your future. So a lot of times people are willing to donate. Are they going to donate $1,000? Probably not, but 10, 20, 50, $100 really quickly adds up. So I would definitely recommend that you try to utilize that if needed. Many families are going to be in a position to write a check. That's great. Most of you are not. So we do have that fundraising tool that's available for you once you sign up, and shop that out to donors too. If you work somehow, if you have a minute to actually have a job, go to your employer and say, hey, I'm going to be gone next summer. I'm looking to do this life-changing thing. Can you help me make my dreams come true? Absolutely. I mean, how are they going to look you in the eyes and say no to that, right? They know who you are. They know your character. They know that you're a solid kid, and they see that you're taking the ownership to make your life better and to have different opportunities that you might not have otherwise had. So that can work out great. We encourage you to use it. So those are a couple of the things. Another big one is insurance, obviously. So you guys are competing. What happens if I sprain my ankle, blow an ACL? Obviously, we don't want that to happen. It does, right? So we have insurance for all of our all of our programs. We include a basic protection plan, and then the addition to upgrade to 2 other protection plans. My recommendation is to always upgrade, but you don't have to do it upon enrollment. We'll send you the literature for you to consider. You don't have to upgrade until at the very least 130 days out of your trip, which is a long time from now. Think maybe next spring. So look around, do some Google searches for cancel for any reason insurance, weigh your options, and then if you want to go through us, great. If you want to go elsewhere, great. If you want to decline outright, that's okay too. So we do have insurance for everybody, and that covers not only medical, medical things, but also your cousin made the mistake of getting married and it's going to coincide with your dates. So now you can't go. Well, how do you decide? You're going to lose your family member for a lifetime, or are you going to go on this trip? You're in a tough position. So that'll give you the ability to back out for any reason. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Another, obviously, the elephant in the room is COVID. What happens if our vaccinations required? Currently speaking, the Australia destination is the only one that still has a vaccination requirement for entry. The Dominican Republic and Barcelona have released their policy, changed everything. Now, as long as you have a passport, you're free to go. So we're not telling you that you should get a vaccine or not. That's up to you and your families and God, if you believe. We're not taking a stance in there. But if you decide to go to Australia and they do still have that requirement come next summer, you will need to adhere to whatever the requirement is. So if you know straight up, there's no way I'm getting one, you might want to look at a different destination, which leads me to another thing. If you've been invited for a specific place, but you're looking at it and saying, well, Australia is really far away. I've never even been out of the country before. That might be a little bit too much for me to chew. You feel more comfortable going to the DR or Spain? Let us know. If the dates don't work for you, you know that your team's already playing in the junior nationals and the dates coincide next summer. Let us know about that too. We have opportunities. We spread them throughout the summer. So they're mostly in the month of July, but they are staggered a little bit. Or if you just look at it and say, I love the idea, but I'd prefer to go to this destination instead of another, it's great. The competition's all going to be solid in everywhere you go. And the itinerary is going to look quite similar, just the length of the itinerary, and then of course the cost. So email us, text us if you're like, hey, can we look at all the options? Absolutely, we'll send them all to you. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Let's see, I've talked a lot at you, and I realize that, my apologies. I just want to get as much information as we can to you. So I think that was it from me. So I see that there's a couple questions from chat right now. So I'm going to hop on those, continue to feed them through if you have any questions that you want to talk about. When is the window when we can decide to commit? So we look for about 30 days from receipt of your invitation. That allows you, obviously I see that some of you are sitting with your parents. Some of you, it looks like you might be by yourselves. If you are not with your parents, then clearly we need their involvement in this process. We're not trying to get you to travel without their consent or their knowledge or anything else. So we encourage you to go and talk to them. Obviously, bring them to one of these Zoom calls. If you like what you hear and you say, hey, that sounds really intriguing, I think that, we want to consider this. Can you sit with me on the next one? Absolutely. You're not obligated to come back to one of these, but it's free for you to come as many times as you want. After you've had the ability to, we're going to continue to send you emails with FAQs and specifics about the program and the experience. We hope that within 30 days, you'll be able to talk to your coach, talk to your AAU coaches, talk to your parents, crunch some numbers, communicate with us and see if it works. So about 30 days would be ideal. At that point, we're going to say, all right, she's probably not interested. This isn't for everyone, and we're going to move on. Is this something that parents can join? I did address that. Luis, sorry if you didn't get that answer. Parents are more than welcome to. We absolutely can come. If you come as part of the America's Team group, you will get everything that your daughter would get, including, well, we're not going to give you the full uniform kit, but we will give you America's Team gear so that you can rock from the sidelines and you'll be part of that as well. Otherwise, but the girls are going to get their jerseys with the USA and red, white, and blue. We even do some jersey exchanges with some of the teams, which is kind of fun too. Get to take a Spanish jersey home for your experience and sort of commemorate everything. But parents will get exactly that. If you decide, obviously, to go on your own, you're welcome to do that too. You want to book a flight to Barcelona and book your own hotel and a rental car? Perfect, not a problem at all. One thing with that is that you are not then going to be part of our group. You will not be able to board the bus due to liability and insurance issues, but we will tell you the facilities and the times that your daughters are competing. You can show up and watch. That's totally okay. Or you can come with us. We will link you to their flights. We'll make sure you both fly together, stay in the same hotel, eat meals together. You'll be included in the same package. The cost for the parent is the same as the players just because of that. We're giving you everything that they are getting. So we are, if there's two of you traveling, we're paying the expense twice. The only thing that's different is the jersey versus the t-shirt. So that would be the reason why the cost is the same. Who is the coach going to be for where Coach Driscoll? Correct. So Coach Driscoll just, if any of you have been invited for her team, she just notified us that she will not be able to travel next summer. So we're not going to move her yet because we don't want to move everybody from that trip and then have to say, well, we're going to have to move you again. So we're going to continue to use her as an anchor, and then we'll follow the same process that we do for everybody else. When we know the final number of passengers, who positions they play and so on, we'll divide them off and assign them to a new coach. We don't know who that will be yet because we don't know how many teams we'll have yet, which dictates the amount of need for our coaches. For any given destination, our goal is to get 3 to 5 teams to represent the United States, and then we are guaranteed to have a minimum of that number to represent the locals. More often than not, we have a lot more than that. So in our basketball tournament in Australia earlier in June, they bought into a tournament that had 700 different teams represented across divisions across the world. So this is a huge event. Our down under games for softball and volleyball, similar. They had teams from New Zealand, teams from all over the country of Australia. There were, I think, 20 something teams represented, 4 of them from the United States. So based on that, we will then, that'll determine how many coaches we need, and then we'll look into our network and assign them based on what we have. We are looking to get an assistant coach in addition to the head coach for all teams. And our goal is to get them to come from different places regionally in the United States too. So we cover it a little bit more. You might work with a coach from Texas, and then she might be combined with a coach from Carolina. So wherever you are, we've got more exposure. That might give you the ability to be recruited by more teams in various places around the country. So that's kind of how that part works. We talked about how we got the players' names. That's through the network of coaches that we work with. They all come referred by them, and then we build on behalf of that. I am actually recording this. My apologies, I didn't mention that. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. I am recording this. If anybody wants to see this, just email me or shoot us a text, and I will send it around. And this is also, you can share this with other people too in the event that the timing stunk for you, you made it work for today, but your parents aren't available because they probably work. I can send the recording around and we can get that to you too. How many do you plan to have on the softball rosters? Okay, so we got softball questions. Perfect. We have a maximum of 12 girls per team for our softball teams. So larger group on the field, slightly larger group for the team, but still a ton of playing time. The cost is going to be dependent on, first and foremost, the country that you're going to compete in, and secondly, where you're coming from here in the United States. You're flying from Dallas to Spain, it's going to be different than Dallas to Dominican Republic. Chicago to Australia is different, so on and so forth. So, okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, we're LGK40. It says I can't hear him. How do I do it to hear him? I'm hoping that everyone can hear me, and I haven't just been speaking for 25 minutes without. So I'm not sure what's going on in your device, but I think that it's working for others. So I will send you, if you send me an email or a text, I'll make sure you get the recording so you can listen to it at a later date. And can everyone hear me? A quick thumbs up? Yeah, okay, good. Probably should have asked to confirm that in the beginning too, but here we are. All right, how does the rooming situation work? So the rooming for the Dominican Republic and Spain is based on triple occupancy. And then for the Australia, it's based on twins, so 2 per room. And sometimes in Australia, there's sort of a mini apartment style where there's 2 different bedrooms and then a common space. So the part of this experience is to have your daughters stay with their teammates. It builds that camaraderie and that rapport both off the court when they have it on the court already. So if you're traveling with a family member, then you can certainly stay with your daughter. If you defer from the standard rooming allotment of that particular destination, then there could be a surcharge for you. Otherwise, if there's 3 of you traveling, husband, wife, husband, partner, whatever, and daughter, then you could, if you're staying in the triple, then you would all pay the triple price. So that, and then otherwise, adults can stay with adults can upgrade to singles, so on and so forth. We discourage kids from staying in singles just because primarily for safety. And then secondarily, because it's just part of the experience. We want you to be able to bunk up with your friends and get to know each other. Registration deadline is about 30 days after receipt of your initial invitation. So we're hoping that people can adhere to that. If you need a little bit more time, let us know. We should be able to find you a spot. A couple payment questions. If I sign up with auto pay for my daughters, the first payment September 1st, or still need to do $495? All right, so I'm going to sort of generally review the payment process. We have 2 options. We keep it simple. The first is a manual process. So you can put down your $495 deposit. Nothing else is due until your balloon payment in the spring. So if you're traveling in June, February 15th, traveling in July, March 1st. So you have access to your account. You can put money in at any point to sort of chip away at your balance. Donations will also do so. If you join auto pay, you don't actually have to put a deposit down. You can essentially roll your deposit into your installments. You can do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. That'll calculate the total. It's going to take the cost and just divide it by the plan that you choose. You'll provide a checking or savings account, and then it'll automatically be deducted in the predetermined billing cycle. So that's a good option if you have the ability to do that. We don't take Discover or Amex, unfortunately, and you cannot join auto pay with a credit card. Part of the reason that we offer it is to avoid the really high credit card fees. So those would sort of be your options. Auto pay, out of sight, out of mind. Manual payment, you'll just need to remind yourselves that pay sometime next spring. We'll send you periodic reminders and such, but it'll sort of be on you to go and settle that at that point. Do we need to get any other shots to travel out of the country besides the COVID one? No, not for these 3 destinations. That being said, we are travel people and sports people. We're not doctors or physicians. So I would recommend that you go and speak with your primary care, your physician, just to see if there's anything that he or she would recommend. For actual travel purposes or for our perspective, there's nothing required for these. College coaches are actually coming. Yes. So the staffs that we send over are all college levels. This is not necessarily a recruiting experience where people that aren't affiliated with America's team will show up. There are always coaches from the international landscape that are there watching our girls play too. We have had some kids that have been recruited from internationals. To date, none of them have worked out. I think that's a little bit far to go undergrad to Australia for 4 years. That hasn't really worked, but there will be coaches that are there as well. And that is sort of the exposure. You're getting to compete under all the coaches, and they get to know you very, very closely through this time. I had mentioned back in the beginning, they get to see you not only how you compete on the court, but how you behave off the court, which for many of them is equally important and valuable. It's about the teamwork, the leadership, the responsibility, and the maturity. How do you handle yourself? Is this going to be somebody that they want on their roster, knowing that they don't need to worry about you when you're not in the gym? All of you guys can play. It's the other things, the intangibles that coaches are often looking for. This is a great way to show them what you're all about. And, we're not guaranteeing that you're going to be recruited, but you are going to get exposure. And, you might work with a coach that's from further afield here in the United States, but when you're being recruited by coaches that are in your region, if you aspire to stay closer to home, you now have somebody, a resource in your back pocket that says, oh yeah, I worked with Gabby over in Spain. She's a solid kid. If she was in Phoenix, I'd be recruiting her myself. She just doesn't want to come here. Speaking of Phoenix, I keep saying this as an example, but we had a coach he's at a D3 level at Embry-Riddle. The guy's name is Mike Trujillo. He went to play ball, coach a team over in Spain. He's actively recruiting 6 girls that he watched play. 3 of them played under his own team. 3 of them were on another team that was representing America's team at the same tournament. So it does happen. It does work. We've had a couple others that are at the NAI level that said, wow, these kids are solid. I'm going to see what I can do with them, springboard them up to the D1 platform, because they were just on the cusp, but academically they weren't quite there. So it does happen. It's not a guarantee. That's not part of this. The promise is that you get to compete overseas with exposure, but it does happen, and it just happens organically. So a great benefit there too. So the associated costs, there really aren't many. We try to make it as inclusive as we can up front. So if you don't have a passport, that's something that you need to do. You definitely need to get a passport to travel to any of these places. And then really just lunches. So we include 2 meals daily. It might switch based on when your tournament is structured or what have you, but it's just lunch. In the Dominican Republic, $10 max will get you fed. In Europe, depending on your appetite and how much, maybe €10, which now it's about a 1-to-1. So very, very minimal amounts overseas. And then just depending on how many souvenirs you need to bring home for the donors or your families and things like that, those are just personal expenditures. We recommend $50 per day. Personally, I think that's way too much. I'd say $25 to $30 would be more than sufficient to get you through a day, to get you through the duration of the trip. So will college coaches be our coaches while we play? Absolutely. Is a travel visa required? Only to Australia. Australia does require a visa for US citizens. We give you the link. It's done online. It can only be done about a couple of weeks beforehand. We'll literally walk you through it step by step. It's super easy. I think the cost is 15 USD or something. Otherwise, there is no visa required unless you are traveling on a non-US passport. If you're traveling from something else, then let us know and we'll do some research for you to determine if you do need any additional documentation for entry. But generally speaking, for US, there is not. Are there going to be practices in between games? So there will be some practices if a court frees up during the tournament. There's not going to be practices beforehand. I addressed that before. Not sure if you were on that before. That was for Nora. So, but there will be some, these are large facilities that you're sort of accustomed to playing on. So maybe you're playing on court A and then later you're on court C and court D opens up. So you can go and play around there and practice and shake out some more of the kinks, get to know each other a little bit more. Is it possible to work with your organization to customize a trip for a high school team that is looking to play overseas? Absolutely, yeah. So this model is just in recruiting individuals. We do work with coaches though that are interested in traveling with their whole team. So it's a different dynamic, but email me on the side. I'd be more than happy to talk to your coach or to you if you are the coach, and and see if we can put something through. We offer already established programs. We have a library there. It's a little bit different, so I'm not going to talk too much about that right now, but yeah, definitely. I attempted to set up a auto pay with a credit card. Yes, you cannot do auto pay with credit card. Unfortunately, it does have to be tied to a checking or savings account. You're free to use your credit card. You can use it as frequently as you want, but it can't be set up for auto pay that way. How do we make sure that we're in the same hotel room as our family members? If you're traveling with us, we've got you covered. We're going to put you in the same hotel. All of our guests stay together. We never separate groups or anything like that. If you're traveling on your own, then we don't know where you're staying, so we wouldn't be able to tell. If you want to book a similar hotel or the same hotel, we'll certainly let you know when things are finalized, and then you can go and book your own space there if you're traveling independently. Great questions, guys. All right, what if you have family living in Australia? Would they be able to watch the games? Would the child be able to meet up for lunch? Absolutely, yes. So the games are open to the public. Anybody's welcome and willing to go. If you wanted to have your daughter go off and depart from the group, we would need to do some background checks and make sure that we have pictures of the folks that are meeting with them, just to take care of the safety angle. So email us at a later date. We've got plenty of time to sort through all that stuff, but absolutely, no problem at all. Okay. So the destinations for Melanie, we do Barcelona, the Dominican Republic, which is a couple different cities, and then Australia, which is a couple of different cities. D1 schools are not, we cannot have D1 coaches because that is an NCAA violation. So they're not eligible to do this, and therefore we can't have them. Also, D1 colleges typically have very large recruiting budgets. So we don't work with D1 coaches. A lot of our kids, not a lot, some of our kids do end up at small D1 or even regular D1 schools, but we cannot have coaches from there. We use a number of different hotels in all different destinations. They are always going to be 3 and 4 star depending on where. They're going to be centrally located. Sometimes these are, because of the facilities that we're competing at, they'll be a little bit outside of the city just because we don't want to have to navigate traffic to come and go from the field or the gym or what have you. But they're always going to be 3 and 4, usually chains, large places with amenities, laundry rooms, and so on and so forth. So they're great places that are accustomed to working with ACIS and America's team. If you're not flying with the destination from the team, we're going to fly you from wherever it is that you're coming from, and you will meet the team. If you decide to go on your own and just book your own flights, that's okay. Don't necessarily recommend it, but if you have miles or something and you want to do that, that's great. We'll just credit the price and it'll be adjusted because we're not including air. So you can email us about what that looks like. Games are definitely live streamed. If parents can't go, they need to be able to watch their kids. And we know that your donors are going to be interested in watching you compete too. So the games will definitely be live streamed, and you can go check those out. Actually, speaking of checking out, the America's Team Instagram page is at AM Team Sport. Go take a look at that because I'm going to put this in the chat as well. And you'll be able to see the girls that are doing what you're going to be doing should you decide to move forward. It's a lot of fun, a lot of smiling faces, kids with trophies, kids exploring, tons of fun. And then at ACIS Tours is the ACIS piece that is more travel. So there's not going to be anything sports related on that, but you'll see tons and tons of kids traveling around the country, around the world, various destinations. So you can go take a peek at that. Can you put in the chat to email if you want this recording? Oh, yes, sorry. So again, my name is Tom Hyam, and you can email me at thyam@acis.com. So jot that down and shoot over anything. You've also got your text functions and your emails. Just reply to those and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. So. All right, folks. Well, I want to try to keep this to about this amount of time because I appreciate you making the time, but hopefully this was informative and you got a lot of the information that you needed. If you have more, feel free to hop on as many times as you want, email, text, call, whatever it is. But hopefully we'll see you folks coming through and be able to share this life-changing opportunity with you next year. So thanks for coming out. And good luck in your seasons.